So, Plandemic 2 is out, and just as I suspected with Part 1, it is pushing the New Age counterfeit unveiling of the darkness. For those who aren't aware, this is what my channel has been exposing since 2016, the counterfeit unveiling, the false apocalypse, the idea that the darkness will be exposed by the light of the New Age. I think that's why Satan built up the New World Order in the first place. He has given humanity a dark, scary villain to unite against. I think his strategy has been to make leadership so corrupt that even a spiritually blind world sees the corruption and demands for a better solution. This is the real Hegelian dialectic being carried out by spirits, not the Illuminati. The real problem, reaction, solution. And with the Gnostic New Age teachings behind all this exposure, it's all leading to the beast war against Israel and the saints of God. The latter of which I believe will falsely be accused as being Illuminati agents of the devil. So the film exposes a lot of things. I'm sure most of it, maybe even all of it, is true. But that's not the point. We need to keep our eyes on the spiritual warfare behind all this, the spiritual dialectic that Satan has brilliantly crafted between the light and the dark. As I've said in a few posts on Facebook and YouTube, I think the real agenda behind the coronavirus was for it to be exposed in order to increase the spread of secret knowledge throughout the planet and get more people red-pilled. All of this just seemed too easy to expose, and the exposure of it happened pretty quickly, even being exposed as a hoax by mainstream outlets by May. In the film, it shows a simulation of a pandemic 5 months before coronavirus was officially declared a pandemic, with people talking about control, making people stay at home, even riots and a vaccine. It just seems like there have been a ton of obvious breadcrumbs that people were intended to find and expose. And again, the rapid rate at which all of this has been exposed, I think indicates that there's a larger spiritual agenda at work, and it's all aimed at pushing forward this counterfeit unveiling of the darkness that I've been talking about for several years now, and which is gradually legitimizing the great New Age lie that we're all God. And it's no coincidence that the makers of the film push New Age ideas throughout it, which I'll talk more about in a second. Now, as I explained in Road to Antichrist Chapter 2 and in my What's Really Coming series, conspiracy theory and the New Age have always been partners, and it can be traced all the way back to ancient Gnosticism, which I believe was the original conspiracy theory, and it was also the first enemy of the gospel. I don't think that's any coincidence at all. So Dr. Judy Mikovits and the filmmaker Mickey Willis, I think they're being set up to look like heroes. The backlash and ridicule that they've received, and in Dr. Mikovits' case, criminal charges and prison time, I think it's meant to set them up as heroes, ultimately as a way to give legitimacy to the spiritual solution that Mickey Willis offers at the end of the film. And if you think about it, the suppression of it gives it the scent of truth. It's a powerful effect that this has. Doctors like this being ridiculed or blackballed or put in jail, it makes them look like heroes and like they can be trusted. It's a very simple but effective way for Satan to paint his New Age light workers as the heroes of the planet who are being silenced for a reason by the dark forces behind the New World Order. And I think the backlash the first one received is part of this spiritual warfare. It really built up hype for the second part, which is really taking off rapidly. The backlash and the attempted censoring of this and similar documentaries, it makes people crave this so-called secret knowledge even more. That red pill of truth that the dark forces are supposedly keeping from the masses. If it's being suppressed, it must be true. That's the logic, and that's the tactic, and it usually works pretty well. And because of the backlash the first one received, the second one has this very alluring quality to it. Again, just like the fruit of the tree of knowledge. It was alluring to Eve, as it says in Genesis 3:6, quote, "It was pleasant to the eyes and a tree desirable to make one wise." And that's what the red pill is, a false pill of wisdom or truth that makes one feel enlightened. And worldwide enlightenment, or gnosis, that is what is laying the foundation of the coming beast system. It's not about the New World Order, but the world's awakening to it. So the film is structured very intentionally. It begins with the facts about the virus, and then it moves to other important points of the conspiracy narrative, how the elites control the mainstream sources of news to control the narrative, how corrupt corporations own everything to feed the propaganda machine, as Mickey Willis calls it, Then it moves on to Dr. Fauci, Bill Gates, the Rockefellers, Jeffrey Epstein, all the obvious dark villains that Satan has given humanity to hate and unite against in order to push the New Age conspiracy view of the end times. Then it goes into the whole vaccine issue with a digital certificate and the depopulation agenda. It's the same stuff over and over again. The exposure of the counterfeit beast system to build the foundation for the real one. And I think this is what the real agenda behind the coronavirus was, to further the exposure of the New World Order, this vast network of tyranny that is being forced on humanity. The real agenda of COVID is not a vaccine. It's to get the world to wake up to the New World Order agenda, to make more people go down the rabbit hole. In fact, Mickey Willis, the producer and narrator of the film, says to dive down the rabbit hole near the beginning of the film. And on this PDF file that Willis directs people to, you can see it has the rabbit hole, a reference to opening your mind, which is a popular New Age adage, and then a quote from Buddha at the bottom. Do not believe in anything simply because you have heard it, which I think is ironic because that warning could easily be applied to the film itself, especially the stuff at the end. Less than halfway through the film, Willis introduces the concept that everything is illusion, which is a major part of the New Age Gnostic worldview. It's also on the Great Awakening map, the idea that our reality is an illusion constructed by dark forces that want to keep us down, and that we must break through the illusion into the true reality. And then at the end, in about the last 5 minutes or so, the film wraps up with the typical New Age call for unity, love, liberty, overcoming fear, tapping into our true power, reclaiming our humanity, remembering our true nature, and rising up together as one humanity against all this evil and corruption. And there's also quick shots of The Matrix and V for Vendetta, which just happen to be two of the main films that I've used on my channel as examples to show what the ultimate agenda is. In fact, Bill Gates and John Rockefeller are referred to as architects in the film, which is a Matrix reference, the architect, which is actually a slanderous Gnostic portrayal of God, who Gnostics believe created the physical world, i.e. the Matrix, as a prison for humans. This is how they see the world. The stories told in those films are a hint at what the real agenda is. Initiation, rising up out of darkness, overcoming fear, escaping the Matrix, realizing your true power, all of that. And like I said, I think the film is structured very intentionally. It begins with the hard stuff, the more evidence-based stuff that most people can accept. And I think that's a strategic move. If the film had started out with the New Age stuff, I think people would be turned off. But it's the exposure of the coronavirus itself that makes the spiritual stuff at the end easier to accept. That's what conspiracy theory, or conspiracy fact, whatever you want to call it, that's what it is. I think it's meant to serve as the hard evidence for the New Age worldview. I think conspiracy theory was always meant to be the gateway into the New Age lie, the rabbit hole leading to the false light of the New Age. You know, people always talk about disinformation. Well, I think this is the real disinformation campaign. It doesn't really matter how true any of the things the people in the documentary are saying are. The real disinformation campaign is a spiritual one. If you understand disinformation, then simply take what you've heard about Illuminati disinformation and apply it to the spiritual realm. Try and see the disinformation campaign being carried out by deceptive spirits. As they say, 99 truths to sell the one lie. And in our case, the one lie is that we're all God. Now listen to something that Mickey Willis says just after the 30-minute mark. I think it's very interesting.
Our main story tonight concerns conspiracy theories.
Last Week Tonight with John Oliver featured a skit entitled Coronavirus Conspiracy Theories.
Like the claim that the moon landing was faked.
First thing to note here is that Mr. Oliver opens with commentary about conspiracy theories that are completely unrelated to coronavirus. This is a standard tactic used by propagandists to set a tone so that anything that follows will be seen through the lens of absurdity.
Plandemic, a pseudo-documentary.
So Mickey Willis notes how John Oliver opens with conspiracy theories unrelated to the coronavirus to set a tone of absurdity. He says this is a standard tactic used by propagandists to set a tone so that anything that follows will be seen through the lens of absurdity. Now we need to take this strategy and apply it to Plandemic to see what's really going on. Because ironically, Satan has been doing something very similar through the entire conspiracy narrative. Only instead of using it to set a tone of absurdity, he's setting a tone of truth. Hence the term the truth movement, or truthers, trutherism. which is being legitimized more and more every day. The conspiracy narrative sets the tone of truth so that what follows, i.e. the New Age teachings, will be seen through the lens of truth. This is the real disinformation campaign, the real spiritual propaganda being spread by Satan. So in order to understand the real spiritual agenda that Plandemic serves, just take what Mickey Willis says about John Oliver's propaganda and apply it to the film itself, and just change lens of absurdity into lens of truth. This is a standard tactic used by propagandists to set a tone so that anything that follows will be seen through the lens of truth. The exposure of the darkness is what legitimizes the light. This is the real propaganda. This is the tactic that Satan is using to get everyone to buy the New Age lie. Okay, the real narrative that's being pushed is not the mainstream media one pushed by corporations. It's the New Age narrative being pushed by deceptive spirits. The Illuminati's propaganda is not what we should be focusing on. It's the false light propaganda that is being pushed more and more as the darkness is exposed. So to answer the question, what does the conspiracy narrative have to do with the New Age? Well, it sets a tone of truth to make the New Age lie seem true. And that's the propaganda behind the film. The truth at the beginning to make what's offered at the end of the film more believable. People go on and on about the propaganda of the dark satanic elite. But what people seem to miss is the propaganda of the light side, propaganda that's being orchestrated purely in the spiritual realm. And that's why the credibility of the doctors or whoever else is in the film or whoever else is exposing the coronavirus as a planned pandemic is not the point. I don't think that's the question we should be asking. In fact, I'm sure they are credible. Satan wants them to be credible. He needs them to be credible because their credibility pushes forward the ultimate agenda of the light. They set the tone of truth to make the New Age lie more acceptable. Remember, 99 truths to sell one lie. And this is why it's been so easy to expose the coronavirus. Facts and deception are not mutually exclusive. They work perfectly together. In fact, true deception requires more facts than lies. And I think all of these credible whistleblowers, whether they're doctors or they're former CIA or whatever, I think they're frontline soldiers in Satan's white magic Gnostic army against darkness. And there's something else I need to talk about that Mickey Willis says at the end of the film that's very significant. He says, quote, "One of the most dangerous stories we've ever been told is that humanity is a failed experiment. We are parasites, a cancer, a virus." Now this is New Age propaganda against the Bible. It's code for the biblical teaching that we are born in sin is a dangerous lie that the elites use to keep us down. That's what that means. And Satan is brilliant. He's been building this propaganda for a long time. I think he built up the darkness specifically so he could blame it all on God, the Bible, and the saints. And I think what we really need to understand about the Great New Age deception and the rising Gnostic rebellion against the Illuminati is the subtle way that the biblical worldview is being painted as the Illuminati's one. Satan has very purposefully made it seem like the biblical teaching of original sin is the mindset, worldview, or one of the tools of control of those who want to depopulate the world, and that's why they want to depopulate the world. And I mentioned this briefly in Road to Antichrist chapter 2, the idea that the Bible and its teachings that we are born in sin is a tool of the Illuminati as a way of making us feel like we are depraved in order to control us. This is how the New Age has been painting biblical doctrine for decades. One of the biggest examples of this is in David Icke's The Biggest Secret, particularly in chapter 5 titled Conquered by the Cross. The meaning being that the teachings of the gospel have conquered or controlled humanity. Here's what he says, quote, "The Christian church is a farce founded on a fantasy. If anyone requires confirmation of how easy it is for the few to control the masses, they need look no further than the billions of people who have worshipped the fairy tales peddled these past 2,000 years by men in long frocks. And what goes for Christianity goes for the rest of them, Judaism, Islam, Hinduism, and all the rest. These religions were created by the same force to achieve the same effect, and therefore, the Savior God myths throughout the ancient world have an identical game plan. 1, you are born with original sin, and so you are an unworthy piece of you-know-what. 2, you can only be saved by believing in the Savior, and that means doing what the priesthood tells you to do. And 3, if you don't do that, you will be condemned to the bowels of hell forever. And then the last sentence of that paragraph, it's all make-believe conjured up by the Babylonian Brotherhood initiates of the reptilians to control the minds of the masses. Now that last sentence in particular, the Babylonian Brotherhood, putting Christians on the dark side, the harlot, Mystery Babylon, who the beast destroys. And this lines up with all this. So this lines up perfectly with the beast versus harlot dichotomy. If you haven't watched my video about that, I would check that out too. So the idea that we're born in sin has been created by the dark forces, those on the harlot side, Mystery Babylon. That's why Ike calls them the Babylonian Brotherhood. And what is the biggest secret that Ike refers to? That we are all God, which again I cover in chapter 2 of Road to Antichrist. The New Age lie is what is at the bottom of the rabbit hole. It's a journey of secret truths leading to the great lie. The rabbit hole is a giant disinformation trap. It's a journey of secret truths leading to the great lie. There's something else Mickey Willis says at the end of the film. He says, "The good news is our story is not over. Our climax is yet to come. That moment when the hero rises from defeat, summoning a force they forgot they had, a force within, a force of nature." Okay, so there's the obvious New Age teachings that we have a divine force within us, and we just need to remember that because we've forgotten it, and that's what makes the Illuminati able to keep us down. And with the New World Order, I think Satan has given humanity, very purposefully, a dark villain to make them rise up as heroes. And notice how he calls this good news. That's what the word gospel means. So this is the false New Age gospel to counter the true one, which Satan has blinded most of the world from knowing. There are no secrets. The mystery of God has already been revealed through the gospel, through the incarnation of Christ, the Son of God coming in the flesh. There are many passages in the New Testament that talk about how Christ is the great mystery that's been revealed, which Satan counterfeited with his mystery school teachings that make us realize we are Christ. Paul says in Ephesians 3, for example, how that by revelation he made known to me the mystery, as I have briefly written already, by which, when you read, you may understand my knowledge in the mystery of Christ, which in other ages it was not made known to the sons of men, as it has now been revealed by the Spirit to his holy apostles and prophets. And as part of this satanic counterfeiting of the gospel, Satan has also counterfeited the idea of waking up. But people aren't waking up to the light of the gospel right now. They're waking up to exactly what Satan wants them to wake up to, the dark side, which is making people run to Satan's light, not Christ's. So I want to encourage people to stop worrying about the lies that the Illuminati have told and start worrying more about the truths about them that are being told more and more every day, which is making people buy the greatest lie of all. Satan built up the dark so that the world would take the red pill, awaken to it, and buy into the New Age lie. Just like when Neo meets Morpheus. He tells Neo that he is imprisoned, and then shows him how to break out of that prison. Enlightenment, gnosis, the God within. This is all part of the purposeful exposure of the darkness to usher in the false light of the New Age. Conspiracy theory reveals the dark control system to us, and then New Age spirituality offers us the way out of the prison planet. Like when Evie steps out of V's prison that he put her in order to transform her. This is the powerful 1-2 punch of conspiracy theory and the New Age, and I've been covering this in detail throughout my channel for a few years now.
And once again, back to the Matrix clip with Morpheus telling Neo about the Matrix, the prison of the mind that we are stuck in, giving him the means to break out of it. The Archons have constructed this evil material world, according to Gnostics, to enslave us and keep us from realizing our true power. That's the Gnostic message, which is the foundation for all conspiracy theory. And the idea of imprisonment is part of the New Age belief structure. The Gnostic belief in the earth being an evil prison, it trickles down into all aspects of life within the New Age. New Agers will tell you that your body is a prison that you have to escape to achieve enlightenment. And along that same vein, conspiracy theorists will tell you politics, economics, and education are all prisons that keep you down. And the whole underlying theme in that message that, we're on a prison planet, or there are prisons that have been constructed to keep you down, is because your God in the New Age you're God, but you've been kept down, and you need to rise up and realize you're God. And what I believe is going to happen is that everyone on the planet will begin to realize that they've been living on this prison planet, and they will all have this new age awakening and realize that they've been enslaved, that this secret knowledge has been kept from them, and they're all going to fight back against the quote-unquote Illuminati, fight back against the counterfeit New World Order, the powers that be, the elite, etc. And that is exactly what Alex Jones and all the conspiracy theorists are trying to be. They're trying to be Morpheus, telling you that you are a slave in the Matrix so that you will have a Gnostic New Age awakening, fight back, reclaim your rights and your power, and become part of the free, democratic, New Age utopia, the New Atlantis. And if this caller or anyone else watching or listening buys what Jones says, what has essentially happened is that they have been recruited onto Team White Magic that is going to defeat Team Black Magic in this cosmic battle between the dark and the light that I believe is going to occur very soon. And I'm not talking about God defeating evil and during the apocalypse. I'm talking about this phony dark versus light battle that's going to come right before that will help fool people into buying into the New Age. What all of these New Agers and conspiracy theorists are doing is slowly but surely recruiting people onto Team White Magic to defeat the Black Magician Illuminati and the globalist control agenda. And of course, this all ties in with the Ascended Masters, who Alice Bailey says make up the Great White Brotherhood, who will help humanity defeat the evil dark archons, which, as I've said in previous parts, according to them, the archons are led by Jehovah, the God of the Bible. This is very serious spiritual warfare we're talking about here.